The sound of the front door clicking shut felt different that night. Usually when I turned the lock, my wife was the one inside with me, but she had left earlier that afternoon to stay with her parents. The house felt bigger than usual, quieter in a way I wasn't used to. That was when Raza called, asking if I was free. He had no idea Sana wasn't home, or maybe he did. Sometimes I suspected he noticed more than he let on. Either way, when he suggested coming over for dinner and a few drinks, I said yes before thinking twice. Raza and I had been best friends since we were boys.
We grew up on the same street, played the same sports, and even managed to end up at the same college.
He was the kind of friend who never judged me, no matter what I said. But there were things I never told him, things I buried deep because I knew they had no place in our friendship. My marriage to Sana should have erased those feelings, but some parts of a person refuse to die, even when you try to bury them under responsibility. He showed up with that easy grin of his, carrying a bag of chips like we were still teenagers sneaking into each other's houses after curfew. We cooked a quick meal together, nothing fancy, just pasta and chicken, and poured ourselves drinks. We laughed more than we ate. That's how it always was with Raza. The years never seemed to change the way we slipped back into our rhythm. The drinks loosened our tongues. We told old stories, the kind only we knew, filled with inside jokes that no one else would understand. At some point he stretched across the couch, legs brushing against mine. It was casual, careless, the kind of thing that happened 100 times before. And yet for me, it wasn't the same. I felt the warmth of his skin through his jeans, and something stirred in me I didn't want to name. As midnight neared, the laughter slowed. He yawned, scratching the back of his neck. "Man, I'm too lazy to head back," he said. "Mind if I crash here?" "Of course," I replied, too quickly, too easily. We stumbled toward the bedroom, both of us a little unsteady from the alcohol. I grabbed him a spare blanket, but he waved it off when I pointed toward the couch. "Don't be ridiculous. I'll just sleep here," he said, flopping onto my bed as if it belonged to him. I laughed nervously and slid in on the other side, the mattress dipping between us. For a moment, it was almost funny. "Stay on your side," I teased, trying to sound casual. He smirked, eyes half closed. "Relax, man. I'm not gonna cuddle you." But as the lights went off and the silence of the night pressed in, I couldn't ignore how close we were. His breathing was steady, almost soothing, and I found myself listening to it like a rhythm I'd known all my life. I stared at the ceiling wide awake, telling myself over and over that this was nothing. He was my best friend. He was straight. I was married. It was just a sleepover. Then it happened. At first, it felt accidental. His arm shifted, brushing against mine. The touch lingered longer than it should have, skin on skin in the dark. My breath caught in my throat, though I didn't move away. Maybe he didn't even notice. Maybe he was half asleep. But then it happened again, slower this time, deliberate. His hand settled on the edge of the blanket, fingers just close enough to graze me. I didn't dare look at him, afraid of what I might see in his expression. Every nerve in my body screamed for me to pull back, to roll over, to end it before it began. And yet I didn't. The alcohol buzzed in my veins, making excuses for me. I told myself it was harmless, just contact between friends, nothing more. But deep down I knew better. The heat from his hand seeped into me, unraveling walls I had spent years building. Minutes passed like hours, the silence heavy with unspoken things. My chest rose and fell too quickly, betraying me. I wanted to say something, to break the moment with a joke or a protest, but my lips stayed closed. When his hand shifted again, it didn't feel like an accident anymore. The air between us changed, thick with a tension neither of us acknowledged, but both of us felt. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure he could hear it, and still, I stayed. The silence between us felt heavier than the blanket covering our bodies. I kept telling myself that maybe I had imagined it, that Raza's hand had brushed mine by chance, that I was reading too much into a simple movement. But the stillness didn't last. His fingers shifted again, this time grazing my wrist with a slowness that didn't belong to accidents. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. Every part of me wanted to move away, to reclaim the safe space of friendship we had lived in for years. But there was another part of me, louder, hungrier, that wanted to stay exactly where I was. Can't sleep? His voice came out low, almost a whisper, as if he didn't want to disturb the night itself. Not really, I admitted. My own voice sounded strange to me, unsteady, unsure. He chuckled softly, the sound warm and teasing. You always were the one overthinking everything. His hand didn't leave my wrist. Instead, his thumb brushed lightly against my skin, tracing lazy circles that sent shivers up my arm. Raza. I started, but my words faded before I could finish. I didn't know what I was warning him against, him or myself. Relax, he murmured, as though he could read the panic in my silence. It's just me. Those words cut deeper than he knew. Just him, as if that made it easier. As if the fact that it was my best friend, the boy I had grown up with, the man I secretly admired, somehow excused what was happening. I turned slightly, enough to see the outline of his face in the dim glow from the streetlight outside the window. His eyes were half closed, but there was something unmistakable in the way he looked at me. A challenge, a dare, a quiet permission. I thought you were straight, I whispered, before I could stop myself. His lips curved into a crooked smile. I am, most of the time. He said it like a joke, but his hand told a different story. It slid from my wrist up to my forearm, then lingered there, steady and intentional. I felt my chest tighten with guilt. Sana's face flashed in my mind. Her laughter, her trust, the vows we had made. I should have rolled away, should have told him to stop. But I didn't. Instead, I stayed frozen, caught between betrayal and desire. The mattress shifted as he moved closer, his shoulder brushing mine. Heat radiated from his body, seeping into me. My pulse raced so fast I thought I might not survive it. You ever wonder? He asked suddenly, his voice barely audible. Wonder what? I asked, though I already knew. What it would be like. If lines didn't matter, the question hit me harder than his touch. For years I had wondered, buried it, locked it away. And now he was voicing it out loud, pulling it into the open. Don't do this, I said weakly, but my words lacked conviction. I'm not doing anything, he replied, his tone soft but daring. You could tell me to stop, and I will. But I didn't. The silence was my answer. The distance between us disappeared in slow increments, like the night itself was conspiring to erase the boundary. His arm slid around me, tentative at first, then firmer when I didn't resist. His breath was warm against my neck, and I felt myself tremble, not from fear, but from the weight of everything this moment meant. It should have been impossible. He was straight. I was married. We were best friends. Every reason screamed that this was wrong, and yet the wrongness was what made it burn hotter. We stayed like that for a long moment, tangled in hesitation. I expected him to laugh it off, to pull back, to say it was all a joke. But instead, his fingers tightened slightly on my arm, grounding me, anchoring me to the reality that this was no accident. Tell me to stop, he whispered again. His lips so close I felt them brush my skin. I opened my mouth, but the words never came. Instead, I turned my head, closing the last inch between us. The first touch was hesitant, almost clumsy, as if neither of us believed it was really happening. But once it did, there was no turning back. The room seemed to disappear. The walls, the bed, even the years of friendship that had defined us. All that existed was the heat between us, the electricity of something forbidden finally breaking free. When we finally pulled apart, the silence returned, but it wasn't the same. It was heavier now, loaded with everything we had just crossed into. I searched his face for regret, for some sign that this was a mistake. But all I found was a quiet, knowing smile. Guess I didn't stay on my side, he said softly, and I laughed, though it sounded nothing like laughter. It sounded like surrender. The morning light crept through the curtains, sharp and unforgiving. I woke before Raza did, my body stiff and my mind louder than the birds chirping outside. His arm was still slung over me, heavy and comfortable in a way that felt dangerous. For a fleeting second, I let myself sink into it, memorizing the warmth, the steady rhythm of his breath. Then the reality hit me like a storm. I had crossed the line. I sat up slowly, careful not to wake him. My head throbbed from the drinks, but the ache in my chest was heavier. Sana's face flashed in my mind again, her trust, her smile, her soft goodnight kiss the evening before she left. I had betrayed all of it. I rubbed my temples, wondering how I was supposed to live with myself. Behind me, I heard Raza stir. "Already up?" His voice was rough with sleep. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Didn't really sleep," he stretched, yawning like nothing had happened. "Man, you worry too much," he teased, sitting up against the headboard. "It was just a night. No one needs to know," his words stung. "Just a night. Maybe for him it could be that simple, something to tuck away as a reckless memory. But for me, it wasn't. It was more than a mistake. It was a crack in everything I thought I was." "I'm married, Raza," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. He shrugged, eyes narrowing slightly. "I know, and you love her. I'm not trying to ruin that." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "But you can't tell me you didn't want it too." I opened my mouth to deny it, to claim the alcohol had blurred my judgment. But the truth burned on my tongue. I had wanted it. For years, buried beneath layers of friendship and denial, I had wanted exactly this. And last night, when his hand reached for mine, I hadn't stopped him. "That doesn't make it right," I muttered. "No," he admitted softly. "But it makes it real." The way he said it made my stomach twist. Real. That was the problem. If it had been meaningless, maybe I could have brushed it off, locked it away like a bad dream. But it hadn't been meaningless. The way his touch lingered, the way his lips had trembled against mine, it was too charged, too alive. We moved around the kitchen in silence after that, making coffee like nothing had changed, but everything had. I caught him watching me more than once, his expression unreadable. When he finally left later that morning, slapping my back with that casual grin, he acted like we were still just best friends. But I knew better. Something between us had shifted, something that couldn't be undone. The house felt even emptier once he was gone. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the tangled sheets, the faint trace of his cologne still lingering in the air. My chest tightened. I wanted to call Sana, to hear her voice, to remind myself who I belonged to. But my fingers hovered over my phone without dialing. What would I even say? That night replayed in my head in fragments. The teasing, the touch, the moment I didn't pull away. Each memory brought equal parts longing and guilt. I hated myself for wanting more, but I couldn't deny it. I wanted the warmth of his arm again, the thrill of stepping into forbidden territory, the way he made me feel like someone I had been trying to forget. For the rest of the weekend, I lived like a ghost. When Sana returned on Sunday evening, she kissed me like nothing was wrong, her arms wrapping around me in a way that should have soothed me. Instead, I stiffened, guilt roaring so loud I thought she could hear it in my heartbeat. "Miss me?" she asked with a smile. "Always," I whispered, forcing the word past my lips. But in the quiet of the night, as she slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling again. The same way I had the night Raza slept over. My mind betrayed me, dragging me back to the heat of that moment, the curve of his smile when he said, "Guess I didn't stay on my side." I knew then that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't erase what happened. It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just a night. It was a secret that bound us, a shadow between my vows and my desires. And though I told myself I would never let it happen again, deep down, I wasn't sure I had the strength to resist if Raza ever crossed that line once more. The weight of infidelity wasn't just guilt. It was the dangerous truth that part of me wanted it again. And that was the part that scared me most.